that have a lot of the technology that we would ultimately need, but we're new to these markets. So we're doing the deep dive ourselves, but sometimes it was helpful for us to place capital with very, very experienced players who can curate a lot of this deal flow, introduce us to players in the market, hopefully make us some money in the meantime. But we're now at the point where we've invested in several funds and key outposts around the world, and we're now starting to shift more towards direct investment now that we have the level of comfort, the network in these markets, where we're no longer just babes in the woods.
This is a question for IDT. So, as Grab Ventures has invested in a few companies, but also at the same time, Grab has also acquired some regional startups. And so, do you think that the model of CVC will block the way for the startups to not really block the way, but make it harder to raise the next round of funding? And does that create any challenges for you in terms of sourcing the deals and to grow the startup further?
I think, as I mentioned, the one simple way to avoid any such challenges is to invest a lot of time and diligence upfront. And the startup founders are also doing a lot of that. Bringing in strategics like us at the right stage is quite important to avoid any such challenges. And spending a lot of time upfront really helps. One way we do it is through our Grab Ventures Velocity program. So Grab Ventures Velocity is a very important channel for us to source strategic investments. And the program is meant essentially for that, to know the startup founders much better, to know their operations much better, and to build that comfort level that within a reasonable time frame, whatever we do together, either as a deeper partnership or an investment, can create a meaningful value for both sides. So that would be the best way we see to avoid that challenge.
And for Paul and Samin and Andre, do you also make majority investment through your fund? And then how meaningful is it in this region?
I'd like, but look at the valuation of the Indian companies. Right? So who have money to have majority unless you come very early? Now we come mid-stage, and we try to write a first check in Series B, and then we should make at least 5x in 5 years. That's the way how the system works. It's mainly consumer internet companies, and we need a leader. So we're very tough in our sourcing because we want to contribute, but building up a leader. I don't buy this argument that India is big and too many companies can survive. You need a leader because liquidity issue is still there, and unless you don't have a leader, it will be a problem for you then to sell the company. But no, we cannot afford majority coming to B, right? So we should make alliances with people, but we already know the whole market who can contribute, who understand risk management, who understand marketing, who can bring Chinese or Korean or Japanese investors. And usually the way how it works, it's like a pool of guys. And this pool has majority. That's the way how it works. But only us, unfortunately, I cannot. I'd like to.
Yes, Samin.
I mean, Rakuten Ventures has evolved over the years. I mean, we definitely had situations where we were the only investors, and running the fund for 6 years, there are definitive, real advantages for being very few on the cap table in terms of pricing, in terms of hedging risk, in terms of influence, and also being able to develop the right exit strategy in close partnership with the management team. But definitely, as we've built out the fund and our portfolio, there's so much more overarching value in developing a diverse cap table from diverse regions around the world. So definitely, it's a mandate for us to make sure that we have a great team of investors helping out the companies. And indeed, we spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get really value-added leads onto, not leads, but again, co-investors onto the cap table.
Because we are about to run out of time, so let's move on to the exit topic. So it's quite early for this region. And you also started invest like 5-6 years ago. And so how do you map out exit for your portfolio? Zemin, so you already have exits.
Yeah, I mean, we've had like 3 or 4 exits already that happened. Like, you know, we have a company in San Mateo called Polymorph that was acquired by Walmart because they wanted a next generation ad tech company. We exited out in Japan in a company called Makely. It's a cloud invoicing company that was acquired by Ricoh, the printing company. There was a company called Geno Taxi in New York, which was acquired by Get Taxi later on. But as you can see, our strength is being able to invest anywhere so that we can develop a very good basket of assets and hence risk profiles. So, and with that, we also bring in various cross-pollinating benefits. You know, the companies that we've invested in, the technologies that we've invested in the US directly apply to some of the portfolios in Southeast Asia and vice versa every single day. So in many ways, not necessarily the synergistic advantages of a corporation, but when we invest in companies, in my mind for Rakuten Venture, we're building our own company so that intra-portfolio synergies can happen readily.
And Andre, you also have the recent exit. So do you see that exit for corporate VC funds are still through M&A?
Exit is exit. Wherever you can sell the company, sell it if the valuation is right for you, right? So yes, we are doing a lot. It's one of the soft money value you bring to the table, so people know that you are good in finding their buyers, and we're looking buyers for our company. It's like we have 10 companies in the portfolio, 3 already coming to $500 million valuation-wise. So it will be hopefully, as everything is okay, will be unicorns. We start looking around. But usually, like, I remember what we promised in IC is exit opportunity, and what actually exit happens to different things, right? So, I mean, like, we sold their very good gift solution companies, which is market share in India was more than 90%, is excellent company. And we sold it to a point of sales company, was going to adjacent area. Yeah, not just to the companies which we put as a strategic so-called buyer. So what the idea is, if you call it M&A, usually look at the table and say, listen, you build up a good business, and then somebody like a global company will come, US, European, wherever, Australian company will come, and it will be easier for them to buy this company and to start from scratch in India. Yeah, so that's actually the way how to do it. It's an IPO, secondary, whatever it is. So it's, you should look around all the time, because it's very different. You look at the corporate strategy of some very strange businesses, because eventually it can happen, then will be your future buyer.
Yes, time is about up. So I have the final questions. I remember Paul and I once had a conversation about like CVC is not necessarily the only path for corporate to innovate and to make investment. So Paul, are you still keeping that advice? And for the others, if there is a corporate here that are looking to launch a CVC fund, what are your advice? So let's begin with Paul.
No, I mean, I think the point still holds. I think when corporates want to engage with innovation, I think they should be asking themselves what they want to accomplish. Because CVC is a tool. Accelerators are a tool. Incubators, venture builders are all tools. Figure out what you want to do and then pick the right tool for that. I do encounter a lot of corporates that they form a CVC, they seed it with funds, and then they sit there and say, well, what do we want to do with it and what should our strategy should be? You know, it's cart before the horse. So, you know, I always tell corporates that ask me for advice, you know, what do you want to accomplish first? And CVC might be the right tool, it may not be. It might be a combination of tools. So, you know, it shouldn't be the starting point. It should be just the facilitator for what the company wants to do.
Yes, Zemin, let's hear from you.
I mean, in many ways, innovation and technology in this day and age is commoditized. 99% of the technology that you're looking at for a startup, you can get your hands on in an hour or so. It's the thing that's not commoditized here is agility. But at the same time, as a CVC, you really need to know what you want to be. You know, look at what Tencent does, SoftBank does, even Naspers does, and to an extent Sistema does. There is much strength in being able to utilize investments as a net capital gainer and something that makes your company's balance sheet stronger. Tencent, 1/3 of their net income gain is from investments. SoftBank, 1/2. This is a tool that's wielded correctly with deference and judicious intellect. This is where a CVC becomes very, very powerful. So was it for Intel, so was it for Qualcomm Ventures. So I think in many ways, be what you want to be, but be very committed towards it. And I try to say this to a lot of the other colleagues that want to become CVCs. Investment is not a privilege, it is a profession. So don't come up to me and say, oh my God, I bled and died for this company for 20 years, now I can do investments. Don't give me that shit. So, that's the first time somebody said shit, right? But that's the thing, right? Be true to yourself, and if you can commit that manifestation into an action, that is where the alpha comes from.
Yes, Aditi?
Quite in line with what Paul and Simon said. I think CVC is not fairy dust. So one is knowing that to start with, what are the objectives, and then picking the right operating model for that. And then once you commit to a model, then quite rightly, like go all in, fully support it, commit to it.
Let's come to you, Andre.
I think if it's a real idea of the bringing this management expertise, it can be a good solution, right? Because eventually it's coming to the table as the board is sitting and don't know what to do, right? And if you have an access to your expertise at home, I don't do due deal without a call back to my guys, you know, who are working in different ballgame, but they say it's not doable, they cheat you. So they check it again, you know. So this kind of thing maybe will help with all LPs. Our LPs will never invest in either through us. Yeah, so it's not the other game, you know. They will not come alone because they're scared. A lot of people scared of very different investment destinations. So say like, listen, we'll feel more comfortable sitting on your back, right, and just doing through you. If it's like continuation of their strategic, it's less interesting because it's not like cricket, yeah? It's not business, right? So nobody understands what you're doing, what the strategic guys tell you to do, right? Then it will be scary. If somebody comes to us and saying, listen, guys, are you strategic or not? If you're strategic, if you are not strategic, then it will be a problem if you ask the question about to have you in the cap table, because who will come if you are sitting already here, right? I mean, like, this very much, it's all nuances, it's all gray, yeah? So, and to do it properly, it's like actually the biggest task of the manager of the fund, right? Because you're under pressure from everywhere, and you should find the way out, and the right way out. But if you do it properly, it's a big, big advantage to sit with guys with expertise, you know, to have these guys in the cap table.
Thank you. And that's the wrap up for this panel today. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you, panelists.
Thank you very much. And coming up next, we are actually going to have Mr. Hans Tong talking to us about, he's actually from GGV Capital, and we're going to go for a quick 15-minute break, but can I request that all of you guys come back at 4:05 so that we can actually be on time to listen to him talk. And coming up next is also going to have Mr. Stephen Lam from CEO of GoGoVan, as well as we're going to talk about the VC learnings from investing in Southeast Asia and what would they do differently with their next vehicles. So do come back at 4 o'clock and we'll see you soon. And also, don't forget to visit Deal Street Asia's booth to pick up a